Hello, I'm Genesis, and I'm here today to talk about sign language and paralanguage and paralinguistics, verbal and nonverbal communication, and why sign language cannot be confused with body language. Okay, so let's start with the first topic. Sign language. Sign language is a system that consists of body movements that represents words. And by body movements, we are referring to the hands and the arms, who are basically the two parts of the body that are used during sign language, okay? And this language is used for people who are unable or who have difficulties to talk or to hear, okay? So now in this picture, we have an example of Spanish alphabet in sign language. Let's remember that the alphabet and the sign language in general is different depending on the country, okay? Because sign language is a result of the culture and the communities of each country, okay? So now let's review, some features of sign language. It is different in each country. It is transmitted by using hands on or arms. It follows the elements of spoken language, and by elements of spoken language, we are talking about the grammar structures, the vocabulary, and the verb tenses, for example. It is also based on the culture and communities of each country. And finally, to be able to identify the mood and the emotions and feelings of the person who is signing, people who use sign language must analyze facial expressions and body gestures. Okay, so now we have an example of verb tenses or how to sign verb tenses in sign language. Okay, so in spoken English we have he will go later, and in sign language we have he go will. Okay, so now in this picture we can basically to analyze how that person will sign the sentence. So in the first part we have he, in the middle part we have go, and in the last part we have will. As you see, the hand moves in front of the body to express future. So now we have an example of, it's a video, okay? It's a video about how to express verb tenses in sign language, okay? So this woman basically explains that you express future by moving your hands in this way, in front of your body. And you express past by moving your hands behind your body, because you are talking about situations that have already happened, okay? And when you are talking about present or maybe something that happened recently, your hands like stay in this way, in this part, okay? But I strongly recommend you to observe this video because that woman explained better than me, okay? So now let's review features of nonverbal and verbal communication, okay? Verbal communication use elements of language such as grammar structures and vocabulary and other aspects too. It contains many different aspects regarding the context and social interactions because let's remember that the context can change the meaning of a message, okay? Then we have the features of nonverbal communication. We use that to express our feelings and emotions through body language and facial expressions, okay? So now we are going to review the features of paralanguage, okay? Paralanguage is basically all the nonverbal aspects that can modify the message, okay? For example, let's suppose that someone tells me, would you like to go out with me? And I told them, yes, I will be so happy to do that. It's not the same as if I say, yes, I will be so happy to do that. In the first part, since I'm showing no emotions and no expressions with my face, it seems like my answer is being sarcastic, it's being sarcastic, like if I don't want that people to bother me, never. But in the second answer, it seems like I really want to go out with them. It includes body language and movements and gestures. Okay. In the previous example, it was because of my gestures that the meaning of the message was different. Okay. And finally, it includes gestures that represents the natural body communication. Since we have two pictures. Uh, in this picture, we see a girl who is in this way. So since she's throwing, we can basically assume that she's mad. And in the first example, we see a children who is like with this face. So just by looking at his face, we can assume that he's afraid of something. And it happens the same in expositions, for example. Um, if before to do your exposition, you are like in this way, even if you don't talk, people will assume and will understand that you are nervous because of your body language. Then we have features of paralinguistics. Paralinguistics is the study of paralanguage. I'm sorry. Paralinguistics are the aspects of vocal and non-vocal communication. Okay, when we are talking about non-vocal communication, it does not include words, and when we are talking about vocal communication, it does not include words either. Okay. When we are talking about non-vocal communication, we are referring to the body language, the gestures, and the facial expressions. And when we are talking about vocal communication, we are referring to verbal communication, and to specific aspects such as the tone of the voice, the pitch, the speed of speech, and the loudness. Okay, as I mentioned before, that in my case I can guess other people's feelings and moods just by listening at their tone and the intonation, these kind of things. And then we have the difference between sign language and body language. Okay, why they are different? Okay, basically, sign language, the strongest difference is that sign language is a language that use grammar, structures, verb tenses, and all elements of language to communicate. Okay, for example, by using sign language, I can tell a story, I can sing, and all of that. I can have communication exchange. I can have a conversation by using sign language. But in the case of body language, it is just the natural way in which your emotions and feelings and moods are transmitted through your body. It is basically a way in which your body shows your emotions. But for example, you cannot have a conversation just by body language. Do you understand? It's basically like the natural way in which your body express their feelings, but you cannot sing with your body language. You cannot tell a story with your body language, and you of course cannot have a conversation with body language. But with sign language, you can do that. You can have a communication exchange by using sign language. Okay, it has its own grammar structures, verb tenses, and basically most of all the elements that make language a system. Okay, but body language does not contain verb tenses or grammar structures or elements of language like we already mentioned. Okay, and these are the references that I use, and that is all. Thank you very much. Goodbye.